In a shocking twist of fate, the most powerful and ruthless king from a dystopian world is reborn as a helpless newborn in a medieval Isekai realm. The moment he opens his eyes, he finds a man and woman smiling down at him like proud parents. They're staring at him with love in their eyes, saying how he looks like both of them and celebrating the arrival of their newest family member. The father, Reynolds, decides to name him Arthur and immediately tries to get the baby to call him Papa. The mother, Alice, laughs and says he's still way too young for that. While the two of them goof around with their new child, Arthur is just lying there, confused. He has no clue who these freaking people are or why they're acting like they're his damn parents. If they're telling the truth, then that means he died in his old life and somehow got reborn with his memories intact. Gazing up at the starry night sky, Arthur can hardly believe that, after his countless victories and ruthless world domination, the Supreme Being has reduced him to a feeble infant. It's humiliating. And the worst part? He has to burp like a baby now. The secondhand embarrassment is unreal. It's not that he hates this new life. His parents are caring, and they seem genuinely happy to have him. But that doesn't change how uncomfortable he feels. Diapers are annoying, and there's always this nagging fear that someone might try to hurt him while he's helpless. So, the only thing he can do to stay on guard is to clench his tiny fist. Reynolds sees this and smiles, thinking it's adorable. He slips his finger into Arthur's little hand and calls Alice over to show her how much their son loves him. Arthur, meanwhile, is still struggling to move, and in the middle of all that effort, he accidentally poops himself. Now his mom has to deal with it, and the shame hits so hard that he almost tears up. He just wants this absurd dream to be over, but it's not a dream, it's real. And this is the new life he's stuck with. Still, things take a strange turn when Arthur notices something unusual. Reynolds suddenly uses magic to boost his strength. Just like that, his body surges with power. Then Alice steps in, using healing magic on him like it's second nature. Arthur's never seen anything like it. Magic didn't exist in his world, so watching it happen right in front of him is fascinating. He wants to understand it, but for now, he knows he has to grow up first. Later, Reynolds heads into the forest and takes down a beast using his strengthening magic. Not long after, a few of his friends show up to hang out. Back to our baby hero. Since there isn't much else for him to do, he starts analyzing everything around him. He pays attention to every little detail and soaks in as much information as possible. Because if there's one truth that holds across every world, it's that knowledge is power. Reynolds eventually returns home after his hunting trip, and Arthur finds himself wondering whether society allows everyone to carry weapons. If that's the case, then it must mean the outside world is dangerous enough to make it necessary. That only confirms to him that he needs to get stronger, fast, because adapting is his only option. There's so much he wants to ask, but his body isn't ready for that yet.
ほら見せて。
この世界には実に興味深い。
Still, in the middle of all this frustration, there's a part of him that feels happy. His new parents give him moments that feel pure, something his old life never allowed. In his previous world, Arthur never even had the luxury of sleeping peacefully. Assassination attempts came with the job, and every night was another risk. But now, for the first time, he feels something close to peace, and little by little he gets used to it. After days, weeks, and perhaps even months pass, Arthur learns to crawl, and the first thing he does is head straight for a mirror, just to check how handsome he looks. Once he gets used to moving around and has full control of his body, he starts sneaking out of bed whenever his parents aren't watching. His destination is always the library. He picks up books one by one, eager to learn more about this world. That's how he finds out that the continent he was born into is called Dickon. Dickon is made up of 3 kingdoms: the Darv Kingdom, where the dwarves live, the Eleanor Kingdom, hidden deep within a forest and ruled by elves, and finally, the Sapin Kingdom, where humans reside, including Arthur himself. Although Arthur's nation is a monarchy, its throne is inherited, unlike his previous world, where power could be seized by killing the reigning king. Once he's got the basics down, Arthur shifts his focus. He wants to understand magic. So, in a surprisingly cute way, He reaches up and pulls a book on the subject from the shelf. The further he reads, the more he starts comparing this world to his old one. His past life was more advanced, more industrial. This one is simpler, but the presence of magic, or as this world calls it, mana, changes everything. According to the book, mana isn't something just anyone can use. It's passed down through generations and only appears in about 1 out of every 100 people. There are only 2 main forms: augmenting, which enhances the body with mana, and conjuring, which enables one to project and manipulate energy in endless ways. While reading, Arthur recalls the healing magic his mother used earlier, and it clicks. She's clearly a conjurer. According to the book, everyone with mana has a mana core, and most spellcasters only learn to tap into it around puberty. Still, he decides to try. He focuses and channels whatever remnants of his Kai he thinks he still has. And just as he starts feeling something shift, Alice swoops in out of nowhere, picks him up like the precious baby she believes he is, and takes a good look at him. At first, Arthur panics, thinking she's caught on to what he was trying to do. But no, it's worse, because she announces that he's pooped himself again, and the stench confirms it. As Alice takes him to get cleaned up, Arthur lies there in silent agony. He's sick of being trapped in this weak body, and the humiliation is endless. He swears to himself again that he needs to gain power, and fast. Later, Alice spends some quiet time journaling his milestones. She looks out the window, eyes landing on Reynolds outside, swinging a wooden sword with Arthur in his tiny hands. Reynolds calls out to her, beaming as he brags about Arthur's progress. But instead of being impressed, Alice is pissed. She storms outside and scolds him loudly, saying, "It's way too soon for our son to be handling weapons." Reynolds tries to explain, but it's no use. Alice doesn't want her baby playing soldier just yet. In contrast, Arthur absorbs every detail of the scene, using his parents' interactions as a framework to comprehend the complexities of marriage. Though he begins to wonder if perhaps, in this strange new world, women might be the ones really in charge. Later that day, Alice takes Arthur to the market, and everything there blows his tiny mind. Every corner, every sound, every item feels like a brand new piece of information, especially when half this stuff didn't even exist in his old world. He even gets to witness magic being used up close, and that alone makes the whole trip worth it. Then, on the way home, as sleep gradually overtakes him, Arthur reflects on how much his family has supported him. They finally make it back home, and Alice carries Arthur straight to his room. On the way, she talks softly about how proud she is whenever he sneaks out of bed just to read, or how curious he gets every time they go to the market. She's convinced he inherited those traits from Reynolds, and she chuckles to herself, saying he might grow up and run off to explore the world. But deep down, she hopes he gets to live a quieter, safer life. That evening, Arthur sits nearby and watches Reynolds practice magic in the yard. At first, he's excited, thinking he finally has someone to learn from firsthand. He watches as Reynolds lifts a few small rocks with his magic, and that makes Arthur change his mind. But before the disappointment sets in too deep, Alice shows up behind him and assures him Reynolds is just warming up. She tells him to keep watching, and sure enough, Reynolds amps up his mana and starts pulling off some serious moves. Watching all this, Arthur quickly figures out that his father is an augment, someone who uses mana to enhance his physical strength and skills. That gets him fired up, and he starts imagining all the cool tricks he could pull off once he gets his own mana core.
私は幸運だ。父親はオーグメンターだった。
But just as he's getting into the fantasy, Alice scoops him up and tells him it's bedtime. On the way to his room, he spots a book on the shelf and immediately starts pointing at it, whining for her to let him read. She tries to resist, but after a few seconds of watching his adorable face light up, she gives in and lets him read it for a bit. As he flips through the pages, he reminds himself of everything he's learned so far, every little step that might help him form his own mana core. He closes his eyes and starts drawing mana from every part of his body toward a single point. He works diligently, and just when his parents assume he's already fallen asleep, a loud explosion rocks the house. Without hesitation, Reynolds throws himself over Alice and takes the blast across his back. Burned and dazed, he quickly checks that she's okay. When she nods, they both remember Arthur. They run inside, and what they see nearly stops their hearts. Arthur is floating in midair, and he is calmly descending like it's nothing. We see Arthur remembering some events from his old life. Someone had tried to assassinate him. The guards caught the man who was supposed to be executed, but the council showed mercy and decided to deport him and his family, who would share in his crime, to their homeland. While awaiting the final judgment, the man begged the council to show mercy to his family, since the crime was his alone. He was the one who had tried to harm the king. He pleaded with them to spare his family, because returning to their homeland would be like a death sentence. He wanted them to deport only him and leave his family behind. But the council told him he had committed an unforgivable sin. The king, they said, was the light that illuminated the kingdom. They wouldn't listen to his pleas. The judgment is final and will not be changed, they declared. The man begged the king to pardon his family. In a shocking moment, the king executed the man's wife and son before his eyes, leaving him stunned and speechless. Finally, he said, "Thank you, king, for relieving them of their suffering." We then moved to the present, where Arthur and his father were preparing for training. Arthur's father flipped him a glove like the one he used, but Arthur wanted to use a wooden sword. His father decided to go along with it and used a wooden stick. During training, Arthur couldn't hit his father. This meant his father had enhanced his stick using magic. The shocking thing was that Arthur managed to enhance his wooden sword too, leaving his father stunned. Arthur broke his father's wooden stick. Afterward, Arthur's father and mother were arguing. His father had decided to bring a real teacher for Arthur, but his mother refused. Arthur's father told her that their son was very talented and needed a strong teacher because I can't teach him anything. She said, "Nya, you and I can teach him some magic." But he replied, "We can't teach him anything." He had managed to break this magic-enhanced stick at only 4 years old. Arthur's mother was shocked, but still opposed the idea, and hugged her son because she didn't want him to study in a distant city. His father said it was for his benefit. To this, his mother replied, "Do you want to abandon your dear son and not keep him by your side?" His father answered, "Of course not. I love him very much and want to stay by his side, but I want what's best for him." She continued to object, and they argued for a long time, until Arthur suggested they all go to the city where he would train. They loved this idea and began packing their things. During this time, they were very happy with their son's abilities, calling him a genius who would go far, while Arthur looked at them with love. Later, a team arrived, and Arthur's father asked him to introduce himself. Arthur introduced himself to one of them, and Adam said, "I've met you before when you were little, and I'm sure you don't remember me." But Arthur was thinking to himself that he did remember him. He said to himself, "These are the Twin Hordes team that my parents belong to." The rest of the team welcomed Arthur and introduced themselves. Finally, a team member named Helen said they were happy to have Arthur join them. They began their journey and rode in a carriage. Arthur was amazed by this transportation method, as it didn't resemble any vehicles from his previous life. Later, they stopped to rest, and Arthur learned they were heading to a city called Axeros. Arthur thought this would be exciting, but then a problem arose. Predatory wolves appeared. The team members stood up and easily defeated the wolves. Arthur was amazed by what he saw. Each team member used their powers to eliminate some wolves. Arthur said the group moved well and used their powers effectively, and he needed to become like them soon.
この世界は安全ではないのだ。アンジェラとダーデンはコンジュラーか。私も早く。
When night fell, they cooked the wolves. Arthur's father told him not to object to the food because they were on a dangerous journey without many comforts. It seemed Arthur's father's hand was injured. When Arthur pointed it out, his father said he hadn't noticed. His mother was about to treat him, but the team members asked her to wait until they could get out of sight. Arthur thought to himself that his mother had special magic and rare abilities, so showing her powers in public wasn't good, as she might be targeted. That's why she lived with his father in the countryside, which offered some privacy. After they finished treating his father, Adam came and told Arthur's father that he wanted to train before sleeping. So he decided to borrow Arthur to train with him. Everyone stood to watch, and Arthur said to himself that this training wouldn't be simple, but he couldn't refuse it. Arthur reminded himself that he was only 4 years old. Then the training began. Adam enhanced his weapon. Arthur thought, it seems he's taking this seriously. So Arthur also enhanced his weapon and his feet. Adam was shocked by this. Then Arthur ran with blinding speed, and everyone was shocked by what they saw, and by Arthur's speed. He was about to fall when Adam seized the opportunity and began to attack. The battle between them was intense. Adam wasn't holding back and knocked Arthur away. One of the team members saved him. The rest of the team scolded Adam for not restraining himself. Adam told them, "You must excuse me. You weren't fighting this little monster." Afterward, one of the female team members came to Arthur with blinding speed and stood beside him. Arthur was shocked, but she asked him how he did that. Arthur looked at her and thought, "I know these looks. They're the looks of someone who won't leave me until they get what they want." After that, they continued their journey. Sometimes they stopped so Arthur could gather more information and train. Occasionally, Arthur would remark that he was learning new things and that his knowledge from his previous life had helped him a lot. This time around, he was training by reinforcing his legs with Jasmine to improve himself, and he also taught her. Jasmine took good care of him and watched over him. But then something unexpected happened. He found out that she knew his birthday and gave him a gift to thank him for what he had taught her. The gift was a dagger, and Arthur jokingly said it seemed she was interested in him. Everyone was surprised because it was rare for Jasmine to show that kind of closeness to anyone. They got ready to continue their journey. While Arthur was talking to his mother, she looked tired. When he asked her what was wrong, she insisted she was fine, but he still felt uneasy. They carried on until Arthur was sitting with his mother, and suddenly the carriage stopped. They were ambushed by bandits. The team tried to fight back, but the bandits had them surrounded from every direction, and the situation looked bad. The bandit leader said, "Don't kill the women or children so their value doesn't drop." Arthur thought to himself, "It seems all worlds have the same problems." All of a sudden, the bandits attacked with full force. Arthur's mother tried to reassure him. The group members charged in with everything they had, taking down the bandits one by one. Arthur noted that his group had the advantage in skill and strength, but the bandits had the advantage in numbers. The group was getting exhausted. Then the bandits struck Arthur's father, knocking him down and injuring him. When Arthur and his mother rushed to help, his father refused, saying his wound wasn't serious, but that things would become more dangerous if anyone discovered her powers. Then Arthur's father asked him to take his mother and run away, but Arthur refused, insisting he was strong enough to fight. His father told him, "If you're going to use your strength, use it to protect your mother, since she's going to have another child soon." At that moment, Arthur remembered everything he had seen and realized what was going on. He finally agreed, took his mother, and started to run. The bandit leader tried to stop him, but Arthur's father attacked the leader and brought him down. The remaining bandits attempted to block Arthur's escape, but the other group members fought them off and cleared a path. As Arthur ran, he thought to himself, "After everything I went through in my previous life, it's come to this. Running away to protect someone. Maybe this is my punishment for what I did."
大丈夫だよ。ママがついてるからね。ありがとう。
He believed he had escaped and that everything was fine, but there was a sorcerer watching them. The sorcerer used his power on them, and Arthur pushed his mother away so she wouldn't be hit, but he was struck by the attack. He nearly fell from the top of the mountain, but he said he wouldn't fall alone. He used the dagger tied to a rope to hit the sorcerer and pull him down too. The group members tried to save Arthur, but couldn't reach him in time. Arthur thought to himself that he hadn't gained anything in this life, but now he understood how someone protecting their family must feel. He finally understood the tears that person shed when they realized they wouldn't see their family again, and grasped the concept of self-sacrifice to save others. He said he had hoped to become a big brother, but it seemed that wasn't going to happen. After that, we see Arthur falling into the forest below, but he survived. Suddenly, a huge creature, the same beast from the previous episode, came close to him, and Arthur was terrified at the sight. Arthur is terrified of the demon, but he is a Chad who won't go down without a fight. He leaps at the demon to attack it but gets flicked away gently. As he gets up, the demon tells him that he still has a lot to learn, and then assures him that she is a friend. Arthur doesn't understand what the hell is going on, and then the demon suddenly starts picking some fruits for him. She tells Arthur that he needs to eat before they can start talking, because she is not going to answer any questions otherwise. Arthur has no choice but to gobble down the fruits, and then he asks the demon if his parents are fine. She shows him a scene of the road where his parents and their friends fought the bandits, and it is full of the dead bodies of the bandits. The demon tells Arthur that everyone he knows is alive, and they continued their journey days ago safely. Arthur is moved to tears as relief fills his heart on hearing this. He then asks the demon her name so that he can thank her properly, and she introduces herself as Sylvia. A few days pass with Arthur still in Sylvia's cave, eating the fruits to sustain himself while his injuries heal. He wants to go to his parents as soon as possible, but Sylvia tells him that it is not so easy, because he will have to go through the forest that is filled with dangerous monsters and outlaws. However, she has another way to unite Arthur with his family, but it involves creating a hole in space-time fabric and takes a lot of time. Arthur understands this, and while Sylvia prepares the hole in space and time, he continues to train his skills. He now understands that even though Sylvia looks like a demon, she is really kind-hearted, and more than that, she cares a lot about him specifically. One day, as Arthur is working on his mana, Sylvia decides to teach him a trick humans don't know. She gathers mana from the air and forms a ball in her hand, surprising Arthur, who has never seen anything like this before. Sylvia tells him most humans think that they can either gather mana or use it. But in nature, many creatures can do both things at the same time. She offers to teach the trick to Arthur, but before that, she wants to know what he will do once he grows stronger after learning it. Arthur thinks long and hard about it, and then declares that once he grows stronger, he will kill everyone who tries to harm his people. But Sylvia doesn't like that answer, and she flicks him away. Arthur gets pissed at this, but Sylvia tells him that he failed her test because she is not going to teach anyone with such deranged, violent tendencies. Arthur is confused by this, because the only thing he learned in his past life was that you get stronger to kill your enemies. However, when Sylvia asks him if he enjoys thinking about violence all the time, Arthur falls silent. Sylvia then tells him that there are other ways to use strength aside from violence, and she wouldn't want him to waste his life on rage and violence. Her words hit a nerve with Arthur, and he feels as if Sylvia knows everything about his past life. She then repeats her initial question and asks what will he do once he gets stronger, and this time Arthur replies that he will protect the people he cares about. Sylvia is pleased with that answer, and she starts teaching Arthur how to use magic while directly gathering it from his surroundings.
憎しみだけが残る。どっちが好き？私もさ。それは暴力として姿を現す。私が助けた命を。さて、質問の時間だ。その力で何をする？
大切な人を守りたい。
Arthur learns it really quickly as well. But just as he runs to show that he can do it to Sylvia, she hits him to the side of the cave and buries him in rocks. Arthur is confused, but Sylvia talks to him via telepathy and tells him not to make any sound. Just moments later, another demon like Sylvia arrives there and tells her to come back with him. She refuses to go with him, so the demon shoots an energy ball at her. Arthur is worried, but Sylvia assures him that she will be fine. She gets up to fight again, and unleashes her full power, shattering her demon-like body and transforming into a white dragon. She then shoots a hyper beam at the demon who can barely block it. He warns her that using such a great power will cost her greatly, but Sylvia tells him that she has no regrets with her life. The demon somehow cancels her attack and then bombards her with his dark energy balls, some of which hit the cave. Sylvia gets distracted as she tries to confirm Arthur's safety, and the demon decides to knock her out with a big attack. Sylvia realizes that Arthur will come under danger because of this danger, so she decides to risk it all so that he can escape. She uses all her power to stop time and then calls Arthur outside, telling him that he needs to go home now. She opens a hole in space and time, telling him that it won't take him directly to his family, but now he is strong enough to survive on his own while he searches for them. Arthur realizes that Sylvia is sacrificing herself for him, and his heart breaks because of that. But she makes him promise to use his power to protect the people he loves. She then gives him some parting gifts in the form of a crystal egg and a feather, asking him to take good care of it. After that, she kisses Arthur. and suddenly he gets golden tattoos on both his arms. Sylvia tells him that he will learn their meaning and purpose when the right time comes, but for now, it is farewell. She then tells him that she didn't really need all this time to prepare a portal to send him home, and she delayed the process on purpose because she enjoyed the few days she spent with him. Arthur starts crying on hearing this, and then he realizes that he is not strong enough to protect her right now, even though he promised that he would protect everyone he loves. Sylvia tells him that their promise doesn't apply in this situation and tells him to hurry. He tells her that he doesn't care if she is a dragon or a demon, because she is family to him, and you never leave family behind. Sylvia tells Arthur that he already has a mom, so he decides to call her grandma, and the dragon starts crying on hearing that. She then nudges Arthur to the portal, and he takes the egg and the feather with him. But just as he enters the portal and turns back to say a final goodbye to Sylvia, he finds himself getting dragged away.
おいで、アーサー。私の力さ、前よりシルビアらしく見える？急がないとね。ちょっと離れた場所に繋がったみたい。チビのアーサー、約束だよ。
でも
アーサー、いくつか渡すものがある。これで終わり。
守れないんだね。せっかくシルビアに教えてもらったのに。シルビアは大切な家族だ。ばあば、
ありがとう。
やっぱり嫌だよ。
Once he is gone, Sylvia releases her power and returns the time in the cave to normal, immediately getting hit by the demon's attack. She falls to the ground, but as he walks towards her, confident about his victory, Sylvia pulls a fast one on him, blasting him with her full power at point-blank range. On the other hand, Arthur is traveling through the portal where he hears Sylvia's voice again. She tells him that it is okay to be sad, but he should work hard to turn that sadness into happiness one day. Arthur tells her that he can't do it, but Sylvia says that she knows he can do it because he was the strongest king in history. Arthur is shocked to hear that she knows about his previous life, and he wants to ask Sylvia if she was the one who brought him to this world. But before he can do that, he exits the portal. After Arthur is done crying about Sylvia, he gets up and places the crystal egg inside his pouch. He then looks around to find that he is in a dense forest full of dangers. Arthur suddenly hears a girl screaming in the distance, and he leaps through the trees to look for her. He soon finds a bunch of bandits kidnapping an elf girl and talking about how they can get a lot of money if they sell her off to Epstein Island. This reminds him of the time his group was attacked by the bandits, and they plan to do the same thing with him. He gets furious on seeing the elf girl being kidnapped, but following his promise to Sylvia, he doesn't let his rage consume him. Instead, he decides to follow the bandits because they will surely lead him to the nearest human settlement. In the evening, when the bandits take a break, they start talking about having fun with the girl before selling her. And that is where Arthur draws the line. He starts gathering mana to deal with these PDF files and then notices that they are controlling wild monsters using magic colors. He throws some nuts at the beasts, causing them to go alert and howl loudly. The bandits panic because that can attract all sorts of monsters towards them, and one of them immediately goes to beat them into submission. Arthur was waiting for this moment, and he creates a blade of mana around his hand before going behind the bandit and slashing him. He steals the bandit's knife, and just then another guy comes there looking for him. Arthur kills him before he can make a sound, but he finds that his body lacks stamina to move around so much. Before he has even time to relax, a third bandit comes looking for his friends, and Arthur immediately attacks him. However, he can only injure his leg, and the bandit calls out his friend, telling him to be careful because they have got a young mage with them. The fourth bandit gets excited because magic users of such a young age are rare, and he can get a lot of money by selling him. He decides not to hurt him and puts down the sword to use magic instead. He then leaps at Arthur with his magic-infused claws that crush the ground beneath them. Arthur somehow dodges the attack and then tries to kick the bandit, but he is faster than him. Arthur throws the knife at him with a thread attached at the end, but the seasoned bandit quickly catches it and then dashes towards him. He kicks the boy with enough power to knock him down and then holds him upside down. But then Arthur uses fire magic on his leg, forcing the bandit to drop him. Before the bandit can recover, Arthur throws the knife at him again, and this time he swings it around his neck so that he can't dodge the blade, as it pierces his forehead. Arthur then deals with the final bandit and frees the elf girl, who reminds him of someone from his past.
子供一人目
おい、しょんべんでもしてんのか
二人目三人目
生け捕りだお前すげえ技を使えるじゃねえか諦めろよし覚悟しろ
He quickly snaps out of the memory and tells the girl that she is free to go home now, but she gets worried as she sees his injuries. Arthur tells her that it is nothing serious, and then covers the corpses so that the girl doesn't see the horrifying sight. She is still curious about them, so he tells her that they met with an accident and they won't bother her anymore. Arthur then finds some luggage in the carriage and tells the girl to go home now, but she grabs his hand because she is scared. She begs him to take her along, and he decides to have pity on her and permits her to tag along. He then turns to the enslaved monsters and decides to put them out of their misery because it doesn't seem to be a good idea to free them. The elf girl, on the other hand, decides to free the horned wolves because elves respect all life forms, and if she doesn't free the monsters, they will die. Arthur warns her against it, but she is sure that the monsters won't attack them. She frees them, and the monsters really leave peacefully, causing Arthur to marvel at the girl's connection with nature. After that, he decides to drop her home, and as they stop to have a break, he learns that her name is Tessa. He cooks some food and tells her to eat even if she is not hungry because that will help her build up strength, and those words remind him of Sylvia. Anyway, he notices Tess fussing about the food because it doesn't taste good and demands to eat something sweet. Arthur thinks that he should learn from her how to pretend to be a normal child because she is the first kid his age he has ever met. Tess then asks him what is he doing here, and Arthur tells her that he got separated from his parents. They continue their journey to find the village of elves, and it takes quite longer than Arthur wanted. There, Tess accuses all humans of being perverts who have many wives. And Arthur just wishes that was true. He asks Tess who told her that, and she tells him that it was her grandpa. Arthur denies the allegations, saying that only nobles have enough money to support multiple wives, but Tess falls asleep halfway through his answer. The next day, they resume their journey, and Tess starts growing increasingly comfortable around Arthur. He is low-key annoyed by that because he wants to hurry and find his family. And then another problematic thing happens. He starts feeling a sharp pain in his maner that makes him so weak that he can't even walk. And Tess runs into the forest to find some herbs that can heal him. As Arthur is sitting alone trying to endure the pain, the horned wolf he freed earlier approaches him. Arthur freaks out thinking that the monster chose to attack him when he is at his weakest. And just then, Tess returns with the herbs. He tells her to stay away because the monster is out to attack them. But instead of attacking, the monster leaves a dead boar on the ground and heads back into the forest. Arthur is really confused by this, but Tess excitedly tells him that the beast wanted to repay the favor for saving its life. Eating the boar meat makes Arthur feel better, and then Tess tells him that she didn't find any herbs, but she found some mushrooms that the women in her village eat all the time. Arthur eats them without thinking much, but then he gets a bad case of diarrhea.
って予想外だったのが穴川から生じる耐え難い激痛だった
大丈夫待って一人は危ないお腹が痛い時はこれがいいってテシア下がれきっとお礼だよ
うまい
柔らかいそうだ薬草はなかったけどキノコがあったよへえエレナーでは女の人がよく食べてるなごめんね男の人には強すぎたのかも
油断した
After that, the two of them return to the tent, and Tess starts telling Arthur about the stories of the human and dwarf kingdoms that she has heard from her grandfather. She says that she really wants to see those kingdoms, but apparently they are full of bad people, so she can't go there, and outsiders aren't allowed in the elf village. Arthur only hears half of what she is saying as his fatigue catches up to him, and he falls asleep. The next day, Arthur's pain returns, but he endures it somehow because the elf village is nearby. Tess tells Arthur that they are already friends now, but he doesn't know how to reply to that because he never had any friends and things get awkward between them. Arthur starts remembering the closest person he had to a friend in his old life and how he killed her when suddenly Tess starts screaming with excitement as she sees the door to the elf village. Arthur is shocked to see it, but Tess holds out her hand towards him, telling him to come with her. He takes her hand and goes to the elf village, where a bunch of guards arrive immediately, sensing an intruder. Arthur doesn't even understand what is happening. As the guards arrest him, and as he sees an indifferent look in Tess's eyes, he wonders what is going to happen to him now. As Arthur sees Tess remains silent despite his pleas, he realizes that he was too quick to trust her. Even though she called him her friend in the forest, Arthur thinks that words don't mean anything at all in situations like this. He panics, thinking that he should have been more careful, and the elf soldiers draw their weapons to kill him. Tess immediately springs into action as she processes what is happening and asks the guards to stop. They tell her that Arthur is a dangerous human, and they must eliminate him before he harms them. Tess tells him that Arthur is her friend who saved her, but the guard refuses to believe her. Instead, he accuses Arthur of brainwashing Tess when suddenly a powerful voice tells him to shut up. Suddenly, a portal appears in front of them, and an old elf steps out of it, telling the soldiers to let the boy go at once. As Tess goes to check up on Arthur, she lashes at the soldiers for threatening him. But the old elf, who is her grandfather, tells her that their reaction was fair, considering that a human had come to their kingdom with the missing princess. The elf then introduces himself as Virion, the former king of elves, and thanks Arthur for saving his granddaughter as well as the princess of their kingdom. This is news for Arthur, and he has a hard time believing that this dummy is a princess, but she gives him a smug smile. Virion asks her if she didn't tell her friend about her royal status, and while Tess says that she did, Arthur can bet that she did not. Just then, her parents arrive there, and Tess runs into their arms. Her dad looks at Arthur, and like any other racist elf, he tells the soldiers to kill him immediately. But Vian explains that despite being a human, Arthur saved Tess and escorted her home. Tess also speaks up for him and strong-arms her dad into letting Arthur come to their castle. Varian tells Arthur that they need to have a chat later, and he feels some mysterious power from the old elf. With that, Tess grabs Arthur's hand and starts running through the city. He is amazed to see it, but the elves keep staring at him with anger and hatred because of their long history of war with humans. Arthur is not concerned by that, but he is concerned about the cold expression on Tess's face when he first asked for her help. He is also confused by his chest pain and decides to be more cautious going forward. Soon they reach the castle, and Tess asks all the maids to serve Arthur with everything they have got. She begins planning out his stay at her place, but Arthur feels that he should tell her parents about their journey before anything else. They allow him to speak to them, but Tess gets him a seat at the table and also orders tea and snacks before they can continue. Arthur wonders if it is all right for a human to receive such treatment. And then Tess's dad, Aldwin, introduces himself and his wife, Muriel. Arthur properly introduces himself and greets them, and Aldwin is quite impressed with his manners despite his poor background. With that, Arthur begins telling the story of how he rescued Tess from the slave traders, and her family is enraged when they hear about it. They begin to curse humans for that too, but Arthur tells them to curse the profession and not the race. Virion asks him, how did he free Tess from the slave traders, and Arthur reveals that he is a mage. The king finds it hard to believe that he could defeat the slave traders, and the elf soldiers are even more vocal about this. They accuse Arthur of fooling Tess once again, but Virion tells them to stay back until they are ordered. Tess also comes forward in support of Arthur, narrating the things that she heard the bad guys say. Her mother hugs her to comfort her, and then her father tells Arthur that he believes his story.
奴隷商人だと。
国王、失礼を承知で申し上げますが、
やはり蛮族人間の仕業か。
これでその奴隷商人がテシアをさらう。
どちらでもありません。ビリオン長老。
やっぱりあなたが倒してくれたんだ。
道に迷ったテシア様を騙し、貴様のような子供に何ができる。
三度目はないぞ。
アートは嘘なんかついてないよ。誰か助けて。
あいつを黙らせろ。こんな気味悪い森とはとっととおさらば。
信じよ
Arthur then asks Aldwin to send him back to his family as a way to repay him for saving his daughter's life, but he calls that demand unreasonable. He says that he doesn't want to help the barbaric humans, but Arthur replies that if he acts like this, he will be behaving like a barbarian himself. Aldwin gets cornered on hearing this, but he still refuses to help Arthur. Suddenly, Tess starts staring at him to emotionally blackmail him. Aldwin folds quickly and tells Arthur that normally the gate to the human kingdom can be opened only once every 7 years, but they can't keep him here so long, so he will send some soldiers to escort him home. Arthur is glad to hear this, but then suddenly the pain in his chest returns with a greater intensity than ever. He somehow endures the pain throughout the day. And at night, he goes to the balcony of his room to get some fresh air. He sees Tess playing happily with her parents in a room nearby, and that reminds him of his own parents. Arthur wonders if they are all right, even though he believes that they are strong enough to survive the attack of the bandits. He misses them and wonders if they will be as happy to see him again as Tess's parents are right now. He gets miserable the more he thinks about them, and Tess notices this. She immediately runs to see him and apologizes on the behalf of her family for everyone being rude to him. Arthur replies that it is all right, and then taunts Tess that she should go back to her family and get spoiled rotten by them. Tess gets offended by this and tells him that his parents will treat him the same way once he returns to them. And this makes Arthur worry even more. He seeks validation from Tess, asking if his parents will really be glad to see him despite everything. Tess suddenly grabs his face, telling him that it is obvious that his parents will miss him because he is not with them. She tells him that she is already missing him because he is going home soon, and Arthur is left speechless. Just then, the glowing petals of a flower that look like fireflies start floating in the air, and both of them get lost in admiring their beauty. Suddenly, Arthur remembers the cold look on Tess's face, and he wonders if something was wrong with her then, or if he was seeing things. He decides to stop thinking about it and live in the moment for just a bit when suddenly he senses an attack coming towards Tess. He quickly blocks the attack and then dashes towards the attacker only to find that it is Vian. Arthur lashes out at the old elf, asking if he wanted to kill his granddaughter, but Virion asks him if he can really kill someone with petals. Arthur opens his hands and finds some glowing petals there, and then Virion praises him for blocking the attack and then responding immediately. He is now sure that Arthur indeed fought the slave traders. But Tess gets mad at this because she thinks her grandpa is bullying her friend. However, Vian assures her that he doesn't plan to bully anyone, and he just finds Arthur quite interesting. He summons a small wooden sword and passes it to Arthur to test his skills before putting tests on the lawn. Virion signals Arthur to start, and he immediately charges at him. He tries hitting the old elf but finds that he is quite fast. No matter how much Arthur increases his speed using magic, he can't land a single hit on Vian. The old elf then blocks one of his attacks, shattering his sword in the process. One piece from the sword flies right towards Tess, and Arthur throws the hilt of the sword to deflect it. Virion is taken back by his skill, and using this chance, Arthur decides to defeat him using a body blast. However, Virion blocks it purely on instinct. Arthur is not willing to give up either, and he charges at him again, hitting him in the forehead.
Mana を使って動きを最小限、それよりももっと速い。チャンスだ。本能のみで戦う者が不良。俺が死ぬ。
Virion is really impressed that Arthur got in one hit, and he tells him to get ready for round 2. But then Tess suddenly assaults him from behind and tells him to stop bullying her friend. Virion tells her that he was not bullying anyone, and instead, if he held back, Arthur would be the one bullying him. Arthur thinks that the old man doesn't really believe what he is saying, but he politely thanks him for overestimating him. Virion tells him that he is not overestimating him, and if he is really grateful, he should become his student. Arthur is shocked by this offer that came out of nowhere, and he tells Vian that he can't stay here because his parents will be worried. The old elf replies that there is a way to let his parents know that he is safe here, and before Arthur can even ask about it, the chest pain resurfaces, bringing him to his knees. Virion had noticed this earlier too, and now he is sure that Arthur has inherited a beast will. he tells the boy to become his student, or he is going to lose his life before he can get a chance to meet his parents. Later that night, as Arthur is sleeping, he suddenly feels the same sharp pain in his chest. He tries hard to subdue it, but the pain keeps on increasing until it rips through his body and manifests in front of him. Arthur opens his eyes and sees a dark figure looming over him menacingly. He is instinctively afraid of the dark monster, but deep inside, he starts analyzing it like a therapist. He wonders if the monster is the personification of his anxiety or his heavy responsibilities and starts screaming as the monster approaches him. But then, he hears Tess telling him to wake up. As Arthur wakes up from the nightmare, he sees Tess sitting on top of him and cheerfully wishing him good morning. Arthur doesn't want to see her annoying face first thing in the morning, and he tells her to leave him alone because he couldn't even sleep properly because of the monster in his dreams. He tries sleeping again, but Tess gets angry thinking that he is calling her a monster. She tells him to wake up because her grandfather is waiting for him. She pulls him up from the bed, and Arthur has no choice but to get ready. Tess then asks him if he is really going to stay with her, and he replies that he is not sure yet. But Vian has something to show him that can change his mind, and Arthur wants to make his decision after that. Soon after that, Arthur and Tess go outside, where King Aldwin is trying to convince Virian that a human cannot be allowed to stay in the kingdom of elves. However, Virian doesn't listen to his arguments and gets in his carriage saying that he likes Arthur, and that is the end of the story. Just then, Tess also jumps in with her usual "Arthur saved my life" melodrama, but her dad tells her to shut up because it is not about her anymore. Well, Virian tells him to shut up as he invites the kids into his carriage, and together they ride to see a friend of the old elf. Virian and Tess start meditating inside the carriage, and Arthur gets bored. So he asks Virian how long the journey is going to take. Just then, Tess falls on his shoulder because she was sleeping and not meditating. And Virian says that she woke up early today because she wanted to come along with them. He says that because Tess is the sole heir of the royal throne, she has never had any real friends all her life. She doesn't trust people easily and hides her emotions from most people, but she is really comfortable with Arthur. Virian thanks Arthur for that because when Tess is with him, she smiles freely. Arthur is impressed that Vian is so humble that he can thank a child, and that gives him the confidence that he can trust the old elf. Soon their carriage stops in front of a house isolated from society, and Arthur is curious to see the man who can make even the former king travel to his house. Suddenly, Virian walks to the door and kicks it, yelling at his friend inside to come out. He then goes close to see if anyone is coming, but his friend opens the door right in his face and tells him to stop yelling. Virian then introduces her as Rainia, his old friend and a sorcerer with unique skills. He says that she can help Arthur with her powers, and she tells everyone to get inside so that they can start immediately.
着いたの？
前国王のビリオンが
着いたぞ魔女ババア。ん？
そんなに叫ばなくても聞こえてるよ。
特殊な魔術師。
彼女は古い友人の君の願いを聞いてくれるだろう。
突っ立ってないで中に入りなさい。
Renee's house is full of books, and Arthur wonders how a nerd like her is going to help him. He says that Grandpa Vian told him that she has a spell that can help him contact his parents, and Renea laughs, telling Virian that he is being quite soft on the kid. She then tells Arthur that she is a deer, which means she can see past and future. She activates her powers and finds that Arthur is so special that she can't see his true past. However, she knows that he is not here for a prophecy, but to see his parents again and let them know that he is well. Arthur affirms, and then Rhea tells him to picture his parents as clearly as he can while bending over a bucket of water. Arthur focuses all his brain cells on picturing his parents in front of him. Meanwhile, his parents are having lunch at their new home in the city. Alice cooks stew and serves it to Reynold, as she says that Arthur used to love the stew too. She suddenly gets sad and nostalgic because today is Arthur's birthday and he is not with them anymore. She remembers how devastated she was on the day he jumped down the cliff, and Reynold also recalls that he drank himself silly on losing his son because he felt it was his fault. Thankfully, his friends were there to help him snap out of that. Soon they reach the city and their party members bid them goodbye. As they returned home, Reynold became a soldier to earn a living and then purchased a house in the city. He and Alice are trying to live normally now, even though they really miss Arthur. They get emotional when they think about him, but then suddenly they hear Arthur's voice calling them. They both get up from their seats in pure surprise, and Arthur tells them that this is not the effect of the magic shrooms in the stew, and he is really talking to them. He tells them that he is alive and well, and currently he is living in the kingdom of the elves. He explains that he is using a special magic spell to contact them, and even though he really wants to come home, he can't do it right now. Arthur reveals that something is wrong with his body, and he needs treatment for it. But he promises that once the treatment is done, he will rush home. His parents are moved to tears on learning that he is alive, and Arthur tells them to take care until the next time they can talk. They hug each other, and Arthur tells them that he really loves them. He starts crying with that, and as his tears fall in the bucket, his concentration and Rainia's magic spell is broken. After that is done, Arthur calms himself down and requests Vian to accept him as his student.
いえ、私もあの子を。
パパ、ママ。
朝？
僕は無事だ。ちゃんと生きてる。ごめんね。すぐにでも戻りたいんだけど、体に不調があって。でも大したことはないから大丈夫だよ。エルフの国、エレノン王国にいるんだ。怒ってしまったことを責めないで。心配しないで。パパ、ママ、二人とも大好きだよ。
アリス、レイノルズ、無事でよかった。これで心は決まった。
弟子にしてください。
Soon they reach the palace, and Vian orders his son to declare that Arthur is going to be his student. Aldwin is not sure about that, but Virion declares that he will take full responsibility in case trouble arises because of Arthur. Well, Aldwin and his wife fold on hearing his stern decision, and they welcome Arthur to their kingdom formally. They even apologize for not treating him as well as they should have earlier, and Arthur realizes that the king of elves still can't stand up against his daddy. He is glad to learn that, and he shakes Aldwin's hand, accepting his welcome. Suddenly, Tess interrupts them, telling her dad that if he really accepts Arthur as a guest, he should let him play outside with her because she wants to give him a tour of the city. He can't say no to her, and soon Tess drags Arthur through the market, telling him about the different types of food items they sell. Arthur accidentally bumps into a blonde elf boy and immediately apologizes, but the racist piece of calls him disgusting and says that he has got human germs on him now. He starts emoting in front of Arthur for no reason and says that it doesn't make a difference that he was accepted by Virion because he will always remain an outsider. Arthur doesn't get what this guy's deal is, and soon other kids also start telling him to go back to the human kingdom. Tess tells him to not mind the racists, but Arthur is feeling a little mischievous. The blonde boy Faye gives him the chance to get even with him as he flaunts his noble status, and asks Tess to let him escort her instead of a human. Though Tess refuses his offer, Arthur immediately acts like he knows Faye's name and the fact that he is a big shot. However, he deliberately pronounces his name wrong and then is sarcastically humble, pissing him off. Faye doesn't let it slide and throws his hanky on the ground, challenging Arthur to a duel. Tess tries to stop him, saying that even if he is a noble, he won't be spared if he causes trouble with her grandpa's student. Faye tells her that his dad taught him never to let anyone get away with insulting him. He taunts Arthur, asking if he is going to run away like a coward because his actions also reflect the honor of his teacher. However, Arthur is surprised because a duel seems to be a very common thing in the elf country, and no one is trying to stop them. Well, Arthur decides to accept the duel, and Tess becomes the referee. As soon as she gives the start signal, Faye runs towards Arthur, who simply punches him. F.A. is knocked out cold with just one hit, and Arthur feels disappointed because he was expecting more after all that trash talking. Tess says that it was bound to happen this way, and then grabs Arthur's hand, running away with him to avoid the commotion. They have some snacks in the market, visit the library and some shops, and after that they return to the palace to chill. Tess asks Arthur if he is excited about his training, but he doesn't seem too interested to talk about it. Earlier, Virion clearly told him that his training would be really hard, but if he can endure it, he will see great results. Despite that, Arthur agreed to take the training, and he finally gets some sort of excitement to show to Tess. He tells her that he is really hyped about the training, and he will work hard to take charge of his future in his own hands. Tess replies that she will work hard too, and Arthur asks her what does she want to do. She says that she will just work hard to compete with him for no other reason. The next day, Arthur's training under Varayan starts, and 3 years pass by in a flash. Tess and Arthur's relationship is the same as ever, and she still comes to wake Arthur up every morning. But now she uses mana on his feet, causing him to feel immense pain and wake up screaming and complaining. The two of them head outside where they see the king and the queen leaving for a meeting. As Arthur is busy wondering where they are going, Tess suddenly holds a burger in front of him, telling him to eat this delicious meal made by a 10-on-10 baddie. Arthur gladly takes the burger, but he teases Tess asking her who is the baddie that made it, and it offends her. She attacks him, and Arthur dodges her attacks all the way to the training ground where Virion is waiting for them. He tells them to fight properly and tosses them wooden swords, but he knows that Arthur is now ready for the second stage of his training. After the sparring session is done, Tess is on the ground completely exhausted. Meanwhile, Virion lectures Arthur about magic, saying that after one stabilizes their mana, they can obtain one of the 4 fundamental elements of magic. The type of element they get also depends on the species, and elves are particularly good at wind magic. Virion says that dwarves are good with fire and earth magic, while humans can use all 4 elements. However, they still have only one basic element they have naturally, and not everyone can use all the 4 elements. Tess suddenly asks her grandpa why he did not train Arthur in magic while he was strengthening his body because she did it. Virion replies that it is because Arthur is weak, shocking him. He then explains that there is the will of a powerful beast inside Arthur's mana core, and that disturbs the balance between his body and the mana core. Arthur suddenly feels his chest pain flaring up as he hears that, and Virion tells him that the pain is caused by the beast will as well. Tess suddenly starts teasing Arthur, asking if he is fine because she uses magic to attack him. Arthur tells her that it obviously hurts when she hits him, but he somehow deals with it. Virion then tells him that it is time for him to awaken the beast will within his body. If he succeeds, he won't feel any more pain, and he will become a real beast tamer. Arthur is ready for that, and as he sits on the ground, Virion gathers his mana. He says that he will light a spark in his mana core, and though it will feel a bit hot, it is nothing he can't handle. He then injects his mana into Arthur's body, who starts screaming as he feels the heat. Then suddenly, the strong mana left in Arthur's body by Sylvia activates, repelling Virion's mana forcefully. As a result of the strong shockwaves released by that, both Virion and Tess are sent flying, and Arthur wonders what the hell is happening. The beast's mana suddenly calms down, and he falls to the ground, causing both the elves to worry about him. Tess goes to check on him, but Arthur suddenly passes out. He wakes up in the castle after a few hours, and Virion is by his side. The old elf checks up on Arthur's condition first, before asking him if he knows anything about his beast will. Arthur tells him that it was a dragon who gave him this power, and Virion is dumbfounded because he never expected that. He tells Arthur to keep this a secret from everyone because a dragon's will can attract unwanted troubles towards him. Arthur thanks him, but then Virion suddenly springs up a shocking news on him. He reveals that he is going to return home in 4 months, and Arthur jolts up from the bed. He says that he was supposed to stay here for 2 more years before the portal to the human kingdom opened. But Virion says that a cultural exchange event is going to be organized for the young people of the 3 kingdoms, and because of that, the portal to the human kingdom will be opened. Arthur gets sad on hearing this because he has grown quite attached to this place. Virion pats his head, telling him to get some rest because his training is going to become more intense starting tomorrow. Arthur asks him if Tess knows about it, and he replies that she is being informed by her parents. That night, as Arthur is in the bed thinking about his early departure, the crystal egg that he has been carrying for 3 years starts shaking. He gets up startled, and as the egg cracks, he fears the worst. However, when a cute little baby dragon comes out of it, Arthur is smitten by its innocence. He decides to play with it, but then the baby dragon bites him and leaves a magic mark on his arm. Arthur is confused about what is happening, but he forgives the baby for biting him since it is cute. Suddenly, he hears the baby dragon talking to him through telepathy because of the magic mark, and Arthur can understand everything it says. The baby dragon calls him Papa, and he decides to name it Sylvia after Sylvia.
シルビアの石が、これってやっぱり卵。竜だよね。かわいい。まさか君なの？
The next morning, as Tess comes to wake Arthur up, she finds Sylvia sleeping next to him and freaks out. Arthur wakes up immediately wondering what the hell is happening. But when he sees Tess hugging Sylvia because she finds her too cute, he decides to go back to sleep. Soon after that, they head to the training ground. And even though Tess really wants to hug Sylvia again, the baby dragon doesn't seem to like her. They reach Virian's location soon, and the old elf almost dies from a heart attack on seeing a real dragon. He then hears Arthur's story about how the baby dragon hatched from the egg after he managed to awaken Sylvia's beast will. Virian knows that he will be in a lot of trouble if people find out about the dragon, so he asks Arthur to claim that it is a rare mana beast. He thinks that it will be enough to fool most people because everyone thinks that dragons are not real. After that, Virian says that since Arthur is a beast tamer now, they will train both his mana core and his beast core from now on. He declares that there is no better training than actual combat and decides to unleash his true power as a beast tamer. The old elf releases a tremendous amount of mana that completely covers him, and when it calms down, he emerges as a monstrous being made of black aura. Arthur is aghast on seeing this transformation, and he instinctively tries to protect himself even though Virian isn't even planning to attack him. The old elf suddenly moves behind him, tapping his shoulder, and by the time Arthur turns around, he is gone, leaving only 2 black footprints on the ground. He begins sweating because he can't even tell where Virian is right now, and he immediately surrenders. Virian appears behind him, and as Arthur tells him that he will need to pay for his therapy. After showing him that monstrous form, he returns to his normal self. Arthur says that he couldn't even sense his presence, and Virian explains that his tamed beast is a shadow panther that can manipulate wind and sound extremely well, but it drains his manor really quickly. Virian then hands him his sword, saying that now his real training begins. Over the next few days, Arthur spends his time meditating to control his beast core and then sparring against Virian's monster mode. He is able to draw the power from his beast core and the pain in his chest completely vanishes. He becomes stronger really quickly, and he spends all his leisure time like a normal kid. A few weeks later, Tess takes Arthur to the market again, and he bumps into the arrogant brat named Faye there. He apologizes, but Faye acts like it is fate that brought them face to face again together. Arthur doesn't even remember him, and that offends Faye. He immediately challenges Arthur to a duel to pay him back for the last time, but ends up getting Code in just 1 hit again. After that, Tess reminds Arthur about Faye, and he immediately helps him get up. Faye takes his hand a bit reluctantly, but his friends tell him to stop acting like it's Dara because they always knew that he wanted to be friends with the human. Arthur then asks Faye and his friends if they are going to be a part of the cultural exchange event too, and they agree because all the noble children are going. Arthur asks if Tess will be with them too, and they fall silent because they know she is not going. Faye tries to lighten the mood by saying that they can't risk letting the delicate princess get lost again, but that pisses Tess off, and she sends him flying with just 1 punch to show her strength. Arthur freaks out on seeing this, and he immediately runs away with Tess before she creates any more problems. Once they reach a quiet place, he yells at her, saying that she should behave like a princess, and punching her people in the face is not princess-like behavior. Arthur feels ironic saying that because he was a king in the past life and he did more than just punching his subjects. But then Tess says that she has been too overwhelmed lately. She says that Arthur is going away soon and she is upset about it, but he doesn't even understand her feelings and lectures her like an old man. She runs away with that. but Arthur suffers serious emotional damage on being called an old man. He soon feels bad about hurting her feelings, so he goes to her room at night with some fireflies and asks her to come on a walk with him. Tess agrees, but once they enter the forest, she starts getting nervous because they are not allowed to be there. Arthur tells her not to worry about it because he is going to keep her safe. They soon reach the place where they first met, and Arthur points out that the horned wolves they freed back then are still alive and healthy. After that, they start a fire in an open area and Tess starts feeling sleepy. She hallucinates a ghost in a twisted tree trunk and screams loudly, and Arthur starts teasing her about it. Tess then asks him about the human kingdom, and he replies that he doesn't know much about it because he didn't get the chance to see it. She says that she wants him to stay here forever, but before Arthur can give his answer, she falls asleep. Soon, the day of Arthur's departure comes, and everyone gathers to bid him farewell, but Tess is not there. Arthur thinks that Tess is too emotional to see him off, so he decides to head to the human kingdom along with the elves who are going for the cultural exchange. He goes to their address and after preparing himself mentally knocks on the door. His little sister opens the door for him and his parents come running after her. Arthur gets emotional on seeing them, and with a bright smile on his face, he tells them that he is home. This is the end of The Beginning After the End, Episode 7. Thank you so much for staying on this channel and watching our videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep you updated with our latest content. See you in the next video.